Pre-calc students, welcome to today's lesson, 5.7 Notes Day 1, your first lesson in double angle formulas. So the first thing that I want you guys to notice about these formulas is that they're for any time the angle is doubled. So if it's multiplied by 2, okay? So notice that for cosine, there's actually 3 ways to rewrite it. So 3 identities that correspond to cosine of a double angle or a double theta, whereas sine only has one combo or one identity, and tangent has one as well. Okay, so I'll kind of help you strategize and figure out when it is best to use, or like to know which one is best to use for the cosine, since there's 3 possibilities. But yeah, cosine has 3, sine has 1, and tangent has 1. All right. So if you look at the directions for number 1 and number 2, they're very similar to the directions that we saw in a previous lesson. They're asking us to simplify the expression and rewrite it into a single function. And if possible, give an exact answer if you can reduce or simplify. Okay, so as I look at what's written in front of me, right, for number 1, it says 1 minus 2 sine squared of pi over 8. Well, this looks like this guy. So I can rewrite this since it has the pattern of cosine of 2 theta, or double angle of theta, right, for cosine. Then I can rewrite it as cosine of 2 times the angle. So the angle of interest, right, this is theta. So I can go ahead and rewrite this as cosine of 2 times that angle, aka cosine of 2 times pi over 8. So ask yourself, what is 2 times pi over 8? Well, the 2 would reduce with the 8, giving you pi over 4. So essentially, they're asking me to find cosine of pi over 4. And guess what? That is a reference angle we've been working with a lot. Pi over 4 is in quadrant 1. It is its own reference angle. And if you use your 45, 45, 90 triangle, you'll get an answer for adjacent over hypotenuse of root 2 over 2. Remember, I always say it's important for you guys to draw your special triangles at the top of each page of homework and notes, right? It's just a nice guide to have as a reference. Visual aid. Okay, so as I look at the next one, 2 tangent of 75 over 1 minus tangent squared of 75 degrees, that looks like the pattern for a tangent. Sorry, not just tangent, pattern of tangent of a double angle. So in this case, our theta is 75 degrees. So tangent of double that would be whatever 2 times 75 is. So what is 2 times 75 degrees? That would be 150. Now 150 has a reference angle of 30 degrees, and it's in quadrant 2. So since it has a reference angle of 30 degrees, right, it's 30 degrees away from 180. That means that I can evaluate it using my special triangles. So if I'm using my reference angle of 30, opposite over adjacent would be 1 over root 3. And then you rationalize that, would be root 3 over 3. But tangent is negative in quadrant 2. So your answer would be negative root 3 over 3. Just a quick reminder that you are more than welcome to pause, rewind at any time, okay? All right, next one. They've given us some information, so notice that they told us about an angle theta, And they want us to use it to figure out what the sine of 2 theta and the tangent of 2 theta are. So notice that those are double angle identities, okay? Because when you multiply something by 2, that's doubling, right? So it's 2 times theta. All right, so I'm going to draw a quick sketch of the information given. So in quadrant 2, we've got adjacent over hypotenuse of negative 21 over 29. Now, as I start to think of the patterns for the double angles, right? So sine of 2 theta, look at your identities. The sine of 2 theta requires the sine, 2 times sine of theta times cosine of theta. So I need to find the sine of my angles, and I forgot to label my angle here, the sine of my angle and the cosine of my angle. Well, the sine of my angle requires me to know what the opposite side is. So if you could please pause the video right now and find that missing side link so I can complete the work for sine of 2 times theta. Okay, so pause the video, use your Pythagorean theorem. Remember that the legs are the ones that are squared and added to equal the hypotenuse squared. Please make sure that if you're only using a calculator that you're putting the negative 21 in parentheses so that negative times negative comes out positive. Okay. So I got plus or minus 20, but for this particular situation, we're going to use a positive 20. Because remember, the lengths when you're drawing angles and triangles and quadrants, the lengths are only negative if you go left or down. Okay, so remember, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, right? Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So these are just ratios. So opposite over hypotenuse would be 20 over 29, and adjacent over hypotenuse would be negative 21 over 29. So then you just put it all in your calculator. Go ahead and pause the video, put that in your calculator, and then push play when you're ready to find out what the answer is. All right, if you did not get the right answer, try it again. Remember, this is all being multiplied, so 2 times 20 over 29 times negative 21 over 29. If you got a decimal and you want a fraction, remember you can press math enter enter on your calculator. Okay, they also wanted the tangent of the double angle. So that pattern is 2 times the tangent of the angle divided by 1 minus tangent squared of the angle, or tangent of the angle squared. Okay, so tangent is opposite over adjacent. So opposite over adjacent in this case is it's 20 over negative 21. Divided by 1 minus the tangent, but squared. Okay, so for this one, because it's a fraction, I mean, technically with the newer calculators, you can do it all at once. You can type all of this into your calculator. Um, but my recommendation is if you feel overwhelmed by how to type all that in, you can just do the stuff that's in the numerator and reduce it. So write it as a fraction. So that will give you negative, oops, negative 40 over 21. And then go ahead and put the stuff from the denominator. I'm just double checking my work. I'm going to put that in parentheses. Whoopsies. Okay, so now I'm doing the denominator. Okay, and I got 41 over 441. Okay, so now when I divide those, give me 1 second. I'm just double checking everything on my calculator, which you should be following along and putting this in your calculator as well. Perfect. Okay, so push pause until you've got your answer. When you're ready, push play to check your work. Okay, so I got negative 840 over 41. Okay, next one. They've given me information about an angle theta, and they want me to find the secant of 2 theta. So secant of 2 theta is not on the list of identities, but here's what I want you guys to remember, okay? Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So what we could do is we can find the cosine, the double angle cosine, whatever it is, and to find the secant, we can just flip it. Okay? So you can just flip the original fraction or reduced number for cosine of the double angle. Okay, so quadrant 3, here's our theta. We've been given hypotenuse over opposite. Remember, cosecant is a reciprocal of sine. So hypotenuse and opposite. The hypotenuse is never negative, so I put the negative on the leg on the left. Okay, so the pattern for cosine of 2 theta, remember, because that's the reciprocal of secant, has a lot of different patterns. Remember, you've got the option of cosine squared minus sine squared. You have the option of 1 minus 2 sine squared, etc. So you really can pretty much pick any combination you want, um, because there's one option that just requires sine, which is opposite over hypotenuse. So you see this one? Because this one just requires sine, which is opposite over hypotenuse, and I already have that, I don't really need to find the missing leg. You know what I mean? Like if I would have tried to use any of the other ones that require the use of adjacent, I would have needed to find, so these are the other options, right, for the identities. If I would have used these, I would have needed to find the adjacent, which is fine. You can find it, but it's like more work. Okay? So since I already have opposite and hypotenuse, might as well use the property I know. Okay, so 1 minus 2 times opposite over hypotenuse squared. So pause the video, go ahead and put this in your calculator. And if you did it correctly, you should have an answer of, so pause the video right now if you haven't finished typing it in your calculator. Push play when you're ready. 7 over 25. All right, guys, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I hope you have an awesome day. See you soon.